Hi, Renee. I'm gonna make you the host so that you're able to kind of take over. I think you're muted though, just FYI.
Details.
I know it's small, small.
Chatting away and nobody can hear me. Story of my life.
Yeah, no, for me also. Thank you. I'm gonna make you the host right now.
Okay, great.
Do you need anything else? Sorry, this is Renee, also me, but
No, I think I've got it under control. As soon as she makes me the host, I'll download I'll share the screen.
I made you the host now.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Why is it closed? Why did it close? Don't do that to me.
Learn how homeowners are strategically using a reverse mortgage loan to cover expenses, pay for healthcare, preserve your portfolio, and
Okay, everybody see that?
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, great. How much time we got?
2 minutes.
Okay. Because we know that Renee's really anal about time. Got 6 people so far. Really like to see people's bright and shiny faces. Have you been able to hook up to the audio, Elsie? I think you're having some problems. Is everything okay now? I can't hear you. Yesterday that happened and it was my fault. Or last night, I should say. Oh, well, make sure you don't have your volume or your thing off. That's what I had yesterday is I had my actual thing off and anyway. Okay, good morning, everybody. Today we're on day, gosh, what is it? Day 8 or the 8th class. Really day 9 though. Anyway, or day 8. How's everybody doing? Take your stuff off mute for a minute and just tell me how everybody's doing. Yes, no. Elsie's trying and she can't.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody have any big ahas from all this?
Many
Okay.
ahas. Every day there is an aha.
Well, good. Now you're on. I hear you.
Good. Good.
Okay, well, my name's Renee Mello, and I'm an agent down in where am I? I'm in Santa Cruz, and I'm also taking over the position of Director of Productivity. So part of my goal is going to be to help agents launch their career so that they are meeting the goals that they want to meet. And the key to that is financials. And that's what we're going to be covering today is how to build a financially sound real estate business. Now, one of the things that I can offer is I've been in real estate since off and on since 1986. And I joined Keller Williams in 2007. I committed to real estate full time, not going to get out of it again in 2000. And I joined Keller Williams really in 2008. And I've had different positions within Keller Williams. I love being an agent and I love helping people launch their careers. And one of the things that I bring to the table is if there's been a mistake that someone's made, or if there's a mistake to be made, I've made it. And like a parent who will say, well, you shouldn't do that because I did that and this is what happened. Not so much that I would use that kind of philosophy, but the other thing is that I can at least share with you my experience when I did something like that. I mean, one of the things I'm sure you've noticed, the newer agents, you are getting more calls from people who want to put their little hands in your pocketbook. They want you to buy this, they want you to buy that. Here's a great way to do this, here's a great way to do that. And what we're going to become in this class, or at least start to become, is good stewards of our money and good stewards of our profit. So with that, you guys have seen this once or twice, haven't you? Yeah, it's like, okay, are they? Again, every day you have to do things to grow your business so that you can run your business. Usually the best way to do that is in the mornings you devote to growing your business, and in the afternoons you basically, you schedule the times to do the listing presentations and the buyer presentations and things like that. So honestly, there's only 2 more days you're going to see this particular slide, but hopefully it's kind of resonated with you all. Do you remember learning how to handle your finances when you took your real estate exam? Anybody, did they cover about how to handle your finances at all? I don't think so. Now, I took my exam at the beginning of time. I did take a broker's exam in 2000, so I have taken an exam recently, I guess if you call 20 years ago recently. But I know that they did not talk about managing your finances in your real estate exam. And again, this is one of the most important things. I don't think any of us got into this business to be a nonprofit. My husband keeps reminding me that we're not a nonprofit. We need to be, profitable and do things to make money. So today we're going to just talk about the different things that a person needs to do to be good stewards of their money. Lee, it's great to see you here.
Good morning. How are you, Renee?
I'm great. How are you?
Just fine. I spent yesterday driving up to my listing in Willits to get it prepared. We're moving along in that escrow, but it is 3 hours away from here, so I was gone all day.
Yeah. So sometimes you have to look at whether this really makes financial sense to. I ended up making 2 trips to Fresno a couple weeks ago, and anyway. Okay, so some habits for financially sound business. The first is to set a profit goal that funds your big life and pursue the activities to achieve it. A lot of people talk about, what do you want to make or whatever, and and surprisingly enough, the most popular answer is $100,000. I was on a class yesterday, a models class, and they were saying it doesn't matter whether you're in Boise, Idaho, or you're in San Jose, California. Usually the first answer when you ask, what do you want to make, is the answer is $100,000. And you understand that if you make $100,000 GCI, that isn't profit. That's the beginning. So to make $100,000 or put it in your pocket, you have to make considerably more, and we're going to go over that. And understand that the reason that you want a big profit goal or you want a profit goal is not so you can, it's to fund your big life. It's to fund the life of your dreams. And one of the things we ask, and one of the things we would have done at the beginning of this class is talk about what our big why is. There's a lot of rejection. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in this business. And for you to get up every morning and say, okay, here's another day, you need to have a big why. We need to estimate, save for, and pay your taxes on time. Again, if you ever want to know how to negotiate with the IRS, been there, done that. And, you know, a smart business person and a steward, again, make sure that the taxes are paid on time. Want to use the proven models and systems of the MREA chart of accounts. Eventually, what you're going to want to do is at the back of the MREA book is a chart of accounts. You could use that. You could actually use a spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet to do it, or you could do Quicken. I actually use QuickBooks. Yeah, QuickBooks to manage my financials. Excuse me. But again, you need to start looking at your financials monthly, okay? You got to figure out where you're at so you know whether you need to, you know, put more metal to the pedal or pedal to the metal. You need to be fiscally savvy by reviewing your financials every month. We talked about that. You need to pay yourself a salary. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but eventually what you're going to want to do is set up either as an LLC or set up as a S Corp. I actually did set up as an S Corp. I'm a slow learner. I did that like 3 years ago. And remember, I said I've been in real estate forever. But 3 years ago, I set myself up as an S Corp. And the thing about it is when they talked about, you know, when they came out with the PPP plan and all that, the PPP loan, I had set up my business as a true business, and it was very easy to prove to them that I was paying myself a salary and I was able to get some money for the PPP plan and different things. So again, remember, we're running a business, and a business has salaried employees. Now, based on what you do every day, you may want to fire yourself, but, you know, again, you are an employee of your business along with being the CEO of your business. So you've got 2 jobs, and then you need to prepare for a financially secure future. So money is good for the good it can do. And, you know, it's interesting because Gary Keller has, you know, I think it was, you know, think a million, earn $1 million, and then eventually net $1 million. And then now he's added one more, which is give $1 million. You know, it's not about making the money and holding on to it. It's about leaving a legacy. It's about being able to contribute to the world. So, you know, money is only good for the good it can do. You know, and that's the way he thinks about things, and that's the way he wants us to set up our business. So what we're going to do real briefly, I don't know how many of you guys actually pulled up how many of you pull up the actual student version of this, but we're going to talk about a financially sound or versus unsound. And this is going to be very basic, but again, I think, you know, some of you may go, oh, darn, that sounds like me. Basically, new agent Jessica earns a commission of $9,000. This is her right here. And after paying her broker, she receives a check for the amount of $5,760, of which she puts in her personal checking account, because isn't that what she earned? I mean, this is her money, right? And it goes to her wallet. Then we have new agent Jessica over here, who actually has got a commission in the amount of, she, you know, gets the $9,000. She gets the amount of the check of $5,760. She keeps some of it in her business banking account. She actually kept $1,728 in her business account. Y'all should have a business account. You don't even have to make it fancy. Just have an account that you designate as your business account, and all income goes into that business bank account. Then you pull some out for your personal account, Okay, so she gave herself $4,032. I think she was being awfully generous with herself. I probably would have kept more into my business account. Whoops, my business account, but that was her choice. She, of that 4,000, she put in she put away money for taxes, state and federal taxes, self-employment taxes, all that. So like for me, what I do is I pay myself a certain amount of money per month, and I actually pay paychecks to write me a check. So they take out my federal tax, they take out state tax, they take out everything for me. Unemployment tax, they take it all out for me, and I get a net check every, I pay myself every 2 weeks and that. So which one of these two is a better financially sound environment?
The one on the right.
You think? I think. And like I said, you know, one of the arguments, and it was so cute. God love my accountant. One of the arguments I used to have with my accountant is I would do my net sheets or I would do my sheets and that. And then I would go in and I would show that I made X amount of money, right? And I thought, well, shoot, with this amount of money, I shouldn't have to pay taxes. I didn't make much, right? And he always said, well, Renee, this is what you owe. And it's like, are you friggin' kidding me? How can I owe this? Well, what I forgot is I have to pay my Social Security. As a self-employed person, I pay Social Security based on what I earn. So, you know, you may think, well, here's my income, here's what I took away. So here's my net, and so I'm not going to have to pay taxes on that. Well, guess what? There's Social Security taxes, there's other taxes that roll into this that you go, oh, shoot, self-employment tax, all that stuff.
That's good.
So,
That's great.
okay. So financially sound business, again, expenses and taxes are accounted for.
And
So,
I
yes,
have
ma'am.
a question. You said that you have what do you call it? S Corp account.
Uh-huh.
If you are an agent of Keller Williams, are you able to do that too? You know, because you're not independent completely. You are an agent of a bigger entity.
Well, but the thing is that I'm still an independent contractor. Remember, you're not an employee. I mean,
Right.
you're an independent contractor, which means that you're encouraged to set up your business like a business.
I
So
see.
even as an individual agent, especially Keller Williams, if you go to other companies, I'm not going to say they don't grasp this, but their philosophy is they want you to be almost like an employee of theirs. But Keller Williams says, come on, guys, this is a business. Set it up like a business. You know, become an S Corp or an LLC. Pay, you know, have the taxes taken out and all that. Become financially responsible. I think I'll mention this now. It's interesting because Gary Keller and all of you guys should be signed up for Mega Camp. Mega Camp is one of the most incredible experiences, and you should all be signed up for that. But one of the things that we used to see is all these mega agents, you know, these people that have made, you know, $1 million, $2 million, whatever, in GCI or whatever on stage. You know, we're all hearing their stories and clapping at them and all that. Well, finally, when Gary got back into the business and really started taking the reins back, he said, you know, I think what I want to do in the future is I want to look at your financials. I want to see that you're a profitable business, because it's easy to throw, you know, I shouldn't say it's easy, but you know, what some of these megas are doing, and they're spending $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a month on Zillow. They're spending $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a month on postage, you know, to send to a farm. They're spending all this money. And, you know, Gary's philosophy is for every $1 you spend, you should be able to identify $4 back. So what he started to do was look at their financials and say, are you profitable? And guess what? The number of people that are now on the stage has decreased considerably, because you can run a big business and be running yourself right into the ground. Someone has shared a story about someone up in Sacramento who was, I think, doing like $1 million or whatever GCI, and he was taking home $50,000 a year. You work way too hard in this business to be taking home $50,000 a year. Any questions? I don't know who during this pandemic, but I caught a cold on top of everything else. We have smoke outside, we have everything else, and Renee Mello catches a cold. Lee, you look like you're going to say something.
Well, you know, this is, we're going through our normal stuff on top of this incredibly difficult stressor that is affecting everybody. You can imagine, just if anyone wants to write a book about this, it should be called The Loss of Freedom. And for all young people, you've cut all their umbilical cords to all their crowded social events. So for most of them, at least half of their activities have been dropped off the calendar. So this has been a very stressful time. But what Renee's comment here is very good, is to get yourself established. Let me tell you what happened a few years ago. You know, I retired from IBM, and I had my real estate business going the last few years. And one day my boss came in and said, "You're not collecting your checks." And I told him, actually, IBM only pays my federal taxes. So here's the point I want to make. When you're making a lot of money, it's easy to go through it very easily. And so what Gary's comments and certainly, and to the point Renee is trying to make, is if you have not set up a financial plan, please do so, because you won't know what the measure of your success is on the bottom line, because there's so many aspects of this unless you actually do a P&L. And you got to stay on top of where you are. And so her advice is a very good one, to set it up properly.
And the thing is, the good news is, even though this is, you know, we're in the middle of everything, the good news is that we're getting close to the time. Usually we say about October. I think we're actually having a business planning clinic sometime in October, September, October. So these are the times that you're going to start putting together that plan. And we're going to cover it a little bit in this about how to figure things out. But, you know, again, we're starting the planning season for next year. They actually talk about November. I think it's November 14th or 15th. You should be saying Happy New Year, because anything that happens after that, and I would actually say November 1st, anything that happens after November 1st is really business into next year. Okay. So understand, you have until now, until November 1st, to get any business that you need, that you want for this year closed. Okay, because anything that goes into escrow after November 1st is really 2021 business. So here's the model that basically Gary talks about. And I hope you guys all have the MREA book. But his model is, out of your commission, you should have 30% of cost of sales and 30% operating expenses for net, and your net profit for every deal should be 40%. I will say, as a single agent initially, that's high for the operating expenses, because the operating expenses are your fixed overhead costs. They're your rent, which all of us are paying, or some of us are paying fees for our offices or whatever, but it's usually salaries for, you know, admin or whatever. So initially this 30% is high, but again, in the perfect model, you should be at least taking home at least 40% of every commission you make, at least 40%. And that's why it's important to lead with revenue, not expenses. You know, again, as I mentioned, every Tom, Dick, and Harry is going to be trying to put their hand in your pocket. And, you know, Zillow will talk about their leads, and you know, there's just tons of organizations out there that are going to help you instantly get leads. And, you know, you could be spending thousands of dollars and getting a return of hundreds. So you need to really kind of follow this sort of model. Okay. Let me see here. Let me just want to make sure I haven't drawn any. Okay. this is an interesting, and again, it's another concept that they're coming up with. And you know, sometimes you wonder, like, is Gary, you know, like God? Well, in a way, the man is a brilliant man. Understand that our leader is brilliant, a brilliant businessman. And the thing about it is that he's lived it. He does not tell us anything or talk about anything that he has not lived himself. And he's built this company. So you have to give him a little bit of credit. You know, he's built this company into the #1 company there is. So anyway, what a lot of people, when they're planning stuff, what they think about is, okay, here's my income, here's my expenses, this is what my profit is. Okay, typical, right? Clifton, you'll agree that that's typical for an accountant. You talk about your income,
Yep.
here's your expenses, this is what your profit is. Well, Gary is saying, let's turn this around a little bit. Let's figure out how much you want to take home. What's your profit? And then how many, you know, how can I minimize my expenses to maximize my net income? And then what income do I need to sell? So in other words, instead of looking at, well, here's my income and then, you know, this is the profit, let's have a goal of what our profit needs to be. And then back out what we need in income. And because expenses are what we can control. Expenses, and we can control income. But our excuse me?
My leg hurts, but my mom put the Band-Aid.
Okay.
Who's this?
I think we got a little baby. Anyway, okay. So understand this. I mean, this is a real shift in how people think, and I think it's really, really valuable. You know, so what's your profit? What's the income? And then you can control the expenses, and that's why you need to look at your profit and loss monthly. Because if your expenses are getting out of whack, you know, maybe you have the income, you know, you're on track with the number of homes you need to sell to get your profit, but your expenses are out of track, so you're not getting the profit you want. You need to reevaluate. You need to start cutting. You need to you know, start looking at things. When this whole thing with the COVID-19 came in, I mean, I'll tell you, if one more person told me to look at my expenses and cut them one more time, I was going to shoot them. But they did it with a servant's heart. They're saying that's the one thing you can control is your expenses. So, you know, we don't know what's going to happen to the income. We don't know what's going to happen to the market. Initially, Gary thought the market was going to take a dump, and he looked at the camera very seriously and said, nobody's going to have a great year this year. Nobody's going to meet their expectations. I'll tell you what, for those people who have stayed in the game and continued to, you know, participate 100%, they're probably, some of them are going to have their best years ever. Okay, so again, but that initially what he talked about is control your expenses, look at your expenses. And, you know, if we all think about it, I mean, there's times if you look at your expenses, you're paying for stuff that you haven't looked at in months, you know. So anyway, this is a new way of looking at it, and I really think it's a great little model. Any questions? So we're going to go into a little bit deeper. So you've got your income. So when we say when we talk about oh shoot, please excuse me. When we talk about the expenses, not the operating expenses, but the cost of sales. Okay, I'm sorry. Cost of sales. Oh, this is the income. I'm sorry. So you have listing income, you have sales income, which is buyer, referral income, and leasing income. Someone may ask, well, why isn't profit share in there? That goes into a different line. It goes into a different area. But these are the things that are actually your income: listing, sales, referral, and then if you do leasing, which I don't think many of you do. Cost of sales. Okay, those are costs that are related to each transaction you make. Those are expenses that you would not have had if you had not sold a house. And I know Clifton's going to keep me honest on this. So it has commissions paid to the office. So they have royalty paid to Keller Williams. Royalty, as you know, is 6% of your GCI up to $3,000 a year. The commission or splits paid to employer independent contractors involved in sales and company dollars offer, obviously, and then referral fees. Okay, so that's your cost of sales. I would actually say, looks like we're missing one. Oh, the other expenses would be everything else. Now, I have a tendency to, I would actually include, and Clifton, this is incorrect, let me know. I would actually include things like, I only have to pay the sign guy to put up a sign if I have a listing. I don't have a listing, I don't need him if I don't have a listing. I only pay my photographer, a cost of sale as a photographer because I only have pictures taken when I have a listing. So those are other costs of sales, and remember they're variable. And so when you're doing your budget, if you plan on having 16 or 20 listings, you've got to say, okay, I'm going to have to spend photographer 20 times. I'm going to have, so those are things that are the cost of sales. They're variable. So they have a little exercise here. And anyway, so a lot of people don't understand exactly how the commissions are figured. How you get paid. So the formula is initially GCI minus company dollar, which is 30% of the GCI, royalty, which is 6% of the total GCI equals your net commission. If you've capped on royalty, and you will always cap on royalty first, you need about $2 million worth of sales to cap on royalty. So you'll always cap on royalty first, and then you'll cap on company dollar. All three offices, as far as I know, have the same company dollar, which is $30,000. And so that you need to contribute $30,000 to the company before you get 100%. And then when you capped on both, you get 100% minus, I think, $125 fee, processing fee. So here, whoops. Well, this is supposed to fill out. Okay, so let's just say $100,000. Let's just say $10,000 minus company dollar, which is 30,000 or 30%, which would be 3,000, right? Minus 6%, which is $600. So that would be what your net would be 10,000 minus 3,000 minus 600. So $6,400 would be what you take home. On this next one, they say royalty, you've already capped on royalty and have not yet capped on company dollar. Then they turn around and they have, this is royalty, this is a mistake. What it be is $10,000 minus $3,000 means at that point, your net commission is $7,000. Okay. And then the last one is if you've capped, you get the $10,000. And you want to cap as quickly as possible. Obviously, you want to cap as quickly as possible because let me tell you, that 100% check is nice. So,
I have a question.
yes, ma'am.
Is there kind of a place where you are working more than actually you're gaining for the effort that you're giving? Where you say, this job is going to be, taking more out of me than what it's going to give me back. So I just skip.
Well, I think what you need to do is start figuring out what your price, how much you're doing per hour. It basically, if you look over, there probably is, where you're putting in, if you're working 7 days a week, 10 hours a day, and you're not even closing one transaction per month. Yeah, but it's your own bar. There's some people in like Saratoga, Cupertino, things like that. They only need one, this kind of I don't want to say it's a hobby, but it's kind of a hobby. And they sell 1 or 2 homes a year that are, maybe $2 or $3 million. So they make 100,000. So it's a consideration of your price point, how much time you're putting in, how much effort. Can I ask why you're asking that?
Just when you're making your books, you have to have as you put your bottom line where you need to the minimum that you need to do. You also is nice to have the maximum that is gonna make sense to your life. How much,
right? Well, I think a lot.
Stop, because sometimes we get dragged into this rushing river kind of, and you lose sense of everything else, and you keep going. I think it's good to have guidance and to have limits to, okay, I made my goal, that's it. I need to, if something else comes and it's in the comfort of me, able to handle it, then yes, of course. But if it's gonna take away from other things that are important, then we need to, balance the life that we're leading.
So let me ask you, what's Keller Williams 3, what are the 3 most important things to them, and what order are they in?
Family, faith, family, and then work, right? Something like that.
That's it. It's
Okay. Yeah.
It's family, God, and then business.
Yeah. Okay.
So if your business is interrupting any of the anything else, then you have to look at, is this working for me?
Right.
I think the other thing is that a lot of people go into this business thinking that it's easy, number one, and they think that it's inexpensive. This is inexpensive, relatively speaking. It's not that expensive. But if you think about, to join the association, to join the MLS, to join, Keller Williams, to join everything, we're talking, to get your signs, to get everything, you're talking probably about, $2,000 to $3,000 at least to get launched.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes we're not quite as forthcoming with that information when we're talking to people. And so it's something that we need to, really kind of look at.
Mm-hmm.
Lee, you're dying to say something.
Well, it's just that everyone thinks it's an easy business. And the other thing is that it's very front end loaded. When you first get involved with real estate, you're not only going to join the boards and collect your signs and do everything else, but you've got a lot of front end expenses. And then there's all these programs that are offered by independent third parties where you can go and they guarantee you leads, and they don't always tell you they're selling the leads to everybody else that they're about to make the 10,000 calls on. And so unfortunately, there isn't a blueprint on how to be successful as an individual, but there is one where somebody's really thought it through and presents a process. But you'll notice the process is not quick. Like, they don't tell you to rush out and start looking at all the great lead generation software and companies that are out there. They first talk to you about setting a business mind and then seeing what's out there. So here's the weird part about the business. You're going to spend a lot of money and you may not have any results for a while. So what some people do is, because they think they have no results, they think they should pedal back from full-time to part-time. And ultimately they get out of the business. Here's the problem. This is unlike anything you've ever done, because this business is going to be created between your ears, in your head. So yeah, there's going to be some sacrifice, some financial sacrifice, and you got to develop some tolerance for people saying, well, you've been in the business for 3 months. How come you don't have any deals yet? Well, this is a business where you have to learn an entirely new business language, understanding, and models. So it can be very frustrating for someone, whatever you did in your past. There isn't another business where anyone just says, you're going to start this from the ground up, and if you don't succeed, it's your own fault. But here's the point. Since you're with KW, this guy's really thought this thing through. And the reason you succeed or fail are systems. And most people, when they start, they don't have a system. Gary Keller has put together a very successful system that's quite agent-centric, and I've said this several times, but I think if you follow this process, you're going to get results. But you got to hang in there, and you got to lean into it. You can't be in neutral occasionally, because when you're in neutral, someone's going to grab the listing for the one person you talked to 3 times, but you never called them back and forth. So you're periodically going to look at the person in the mirror and say, man, this is a lot of effort. Here's the point. When you get the momentum built, you hang in there long enough, you take your hits, you continue to press, ultimately the business actually becomes pretty simple, because what they're going to expect from you is not only your empathetic listening, but your ability to perform and give them a perspective so they can achieve this. But this is not something you're going to learn out of the box. Unfortunately, everybody's got to go through it. And I'll just say this to you. Your first difficult escrows are going to teach you more than 100 successful ones. Because the successful ones means you covered all the areas where issues came up. It's the difficult ones where we do the learning, and that's where the growth is. Unfortunately, the growth comes from some level of pain. I know of 2 guys that are spending $30,000 a month right now in advertising.
Whoa.
When I said that, when I repeated that back to them, they said, no, actually we're spending about $450 a year. It isn't 30K a month, it's more like 35. Now they've been in the business a long time, obviously. And anybody that's a multi-million-dollar GCI producer is spending a ton of money unless they've got a niche. When you first get started, there's so many ways that you can go about this. So whether you can possibly find a niche market someplace if you don't want to do the general stuff. In other words, you have to be a business person, and there is no real guide to be that, but you have in front of you a system that if you participate, you become successful. And I'll just say this, Renee, for those people that didn't do all the steps and then later said they weren't successful, it's because they didn't do all the steps. Because I'll tell you what happens when you're a pro. It's not that pros don't get knocked down. They get knocked down as often as others. What they do is they come back faster and they learn from the lesson and they're not resentful. That last part's a big deal. So if you get really burned by an agent or a company, you might paint it with a broad brush, but you got to keep moving forward, because a lot of people have that rear view mirror as their front windshield. So this is a business, LC, that is very difficult to explain simply, but just understand there's a lot of financial pressure, a lot of financial cost up front. And then you have to understand, you have to change your thinking. So classes like this, I've been in the business since 1979. You know why I come to the classes? I'll tell you why. Because pros know the basics better than anyone. They're not doing the genius bit at the end. They just know how the steps are to get there. And they're using the same steps. But ultimately, when you hear this from Renee or me or anyone else, you have to develop your own business model. You have to personalize it. You have to take all this information and make it real, make it authentic from you. That's why when they give you the word tracks, that's a guideline. But ultimately, you'll develop your own where you feel comfortable in your own skin doing this. So the reason that I go to these classes after being in the business for 40 years is because pros know the basics very well. And occasionally I need to have my basic stuff refreshed, because when you start to talk for somebody like today, I'm going to start doing my CRM stuff. When you start making cold calls, you start sending out the emails, you start contacting people you've known for a long time, what they're going to expect from you is that you know the ABC so well that if they want to talk to you about the D item, then the A item, then the F item, and you track with them, they hire you. At very first, it's not the Keller Williams logo that's going to get them to talk to you. It's you.
You.
So you really have to know the basics so well. So you might find it odd that somebody's been in the business 40 years attending this class. Don't be surprised. Michelangelo, even when in his advanced years in carving, would periodically take a block of stone and work on the perfect curve. And this was a guy who was a master of, and I've actually been there. I've actually put my hand behind the marble that he cut out so thin by hand that light goes through it when he was making clouds for the Vatican. Here's what I want to say to you. When a guy that's that good still works on basics, there's a lesson for all of us to learn from that.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
So, and just real quickly, I just want to add, like someone like, no, I'm not going to add that. Okay. So here's a way to start, a rough start on how you want to make how much you want to make. So everybody take a pencil and paper and have a little calculator close. And tell me, put down what your net profit goal is. Okay. Your net profit goal. Everybody got it?
Mm-hmm.
How many people put 100,000? No, I'm not going to say that. Okay. So if you're going to take home 40% in profit, you've got to divide that by 60%, which is your expenses, which, it's back-ass math, but divide your profit goal by 60%, and that tells you what your gross profit is. But then on top of that, and what they're saying is,
Okay.
no, okay, I'm sorry, the net profit, that's your expenses. Those are your two expenses. I'm sorry. That is your cost of sales and your operating expense. Now divide that amount by 40%. So divide it by 0.40. And that tells you how much you have to earn in gross commission income to get that net profit goal. So in San Jose, I would say probably what's the average sales price in San Jose?
I mean, we could make it $1 million just to make it simple.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. So $1 million, and the average commission do 2.5, so that's $25,000, right? Okay, so then you divide your gross, you divide the number from you have to add in royalty and company dollars. So that is 3,000 and 30,000. Okay, wait a second. I'm sorry. What it said is divide GCI by the average commission. So divide the gross commission income, this one, by $25,000. And that's going to tell you how many units you're going to have to sell to get that 100,000. And then they're having you add in, well, here's an example. So then they have you add in, some places have $20,000 as their cap. But you add in the 33,000, or you have the 33,000, and you multiply that by 30%, the GCI by 30%, that's that. And that doesn't tell you anything. So basically you need 56 units.
If the commission's $7,500.
Yes, I'm sorry. So if the commission is 25,000 based on what you wanted as your gross commission, that'll tell you how many units. Anyone want to share how many units they need to do?
Well, I'm going to try and do.
Don't try, just do.
I'll do 10.
Okay.
But I'm trying to get to 12 this coming year.
Okay. So you're planning on doing one a month.
Yeah. Yeah. Once I get
Okay. Anyone
recovered.
else want to share? And I mean, when you break it down to monthly, it doesn't become as overwhelming, does it? Anyone else want
Actually,
to
I
share?
work it down to daily. I work it down to the dailies because I'm doing condos, townhomes, and houses, guys.
Yeah. Anyone else want to share? Don't be bashful.
I calculate mine to be 10.28.
So basically a little less than one a month. Yeah. Okay. I would round up to 11 just because. Anyone else? Okay. So this is going to be the beginning, by the way. This is just the beginning of what you'll do when you start putting together your business plan. Because if you need to do 56 units, then you need to start dividing in how many of those are going to be listings, how many of those are going to be buyers, right? Then what is your closing rate? If you close 80% of the listing, or how many listing appointments do you need to go on? How many of those do you close? So all this will be done in your business planning sessions that are coming up. I can't encourage you enough to make sure you're in these. And you know, the biggest thing that happens is that most business plans are done and then they're put up on the shelf and they're not looked at until the next year. This is something, again, if you have it broken down by the month, you have your profit and loss, you know, month to month, day to day, you should know day to day exactly what you need to do to make your goal. So these are the best practices to set yourself up for a success. Again, get clarity on what your big life hopes and dreams are. It is, I mean, it's hard enough to get up in the morning. If you don't have a reason for getting up in the morning every morning, I mean, you have a reason of it, you know, you want to live, but you don't have a reason to come in and, you know, do the work, you're not going to do it. Set up your personal and business budgets. Set up your business entity. So in other words, eventually, you know, it's not something you have to do right now. I'm not going to say, I think for me to set up my S Corp with the attorney and with the CPA, it probably ended up costing me maybe $1,500, $2,000. It's not cheap, but it's worth it. Okay, and you can do an LLC. Open an additional bank accounts for taxes, expenses, and other savings. There's a book called Profit First, which is a really interesting book. It actually has you sign up, set up 5 accounts, and the first one is profit. That you take profit first out of everything that you do. And you're going to see that probably integrated a little more into the Keller Williams models. It's something that they're talking about. Download and use the MREA chart of accounts. If you don't have the MREA book, shame on you. But then again, if you go to kellerink.com, and it's KELLERINK.com, they actually have the chart of accounts. Purchase and download tax accounting software. You know something, there's nothing better than having a good accountant. You know, it'd be like the accountant saying, well, I'm going to buy my own house. You know, I'm going to respect the people, respect people's industries and use them. You know, it's really hard to talk about, you know, someone like to a for sale by owner. You know, they think they can do it, and you know, they need to respect you as a professional. I'm kind of getting off the soup, but hire an accountant, hire an attorney if you need to. Set dates to calculate and pay your estimated taxes. I can assure you, if you hire an accountant after your first year of taxes, they will hand you 4 little envelopes with 4 little thingamajiggers in them, and you're going to go, what the hell is this? And they're going to say, this is something you need to pay on January 15th, April 15th, September 15th, and January 15th. And these are your estimated taxes. If you don't do it, there's a little penalty. Is it a huge penalty? Again, been there, done that. Not a huge one. But, you know, again, it's a steward of your money. Do things. You're a business owner. Do things that you need to do, and prepare for your, you know, your future, insurance, savings, and investments. So, you know, if I was to give you a piece of advice about the very, 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 very first thing you need to do is set up a business account. And again, it could be set up as a personal account. It could, you know, it doesn't have to be a business account, but set up an account that's just going to be for your commissions. I've actually got, I've got my corporate name, and 2 DBAs that I operate under. And each of those have their own checking accounts, their own accounts. So
It sounds
anyway-
like you're very well organized, Renee.
Oh, yeah, well, sure. Sounds like it. No, it's taken me, you know, and again, I've done, it wasn't, and it was only recently that I started, anyway. Yes, thank you.
No, I mean, for those of you that are just getting started, none of this really means anything until you have your first few closings. You know, the
Yeah.
big concentration is to be on the first closing. So here's another thing I should add. Real estate is a business that's on the bubble, which means you have to work really, really hard, as we all do, just to be in front of this video screen this morning. There's so much stress going on in the world and so much else. You have to work really hard to stay in the same spot, because a lot of things we took for granted aren't anymore. So what Renee and KW is trying to get you to do is understand that you, as Gary says, you got to move right to the bubble, which means you got to make more effort than you're actually making to watch this video, to get out there in front of people. And when he says move to the right, he means to make extra effort. And if you think that's unusual, I think that everybody has an extraordinary individual inside them. It's just a matter of when that person shows up, if they do.
And they will
So-
show up.
They will if you become excellent at any line of business or any line of thinking. But it's very difficult to tell people to make more effort than what they're already doing today. And that's a given, because it takes so much effort to maintain any semblance of what we used to have, which of course is maybe gone forever. There may not ever be another crowded event until we really straighten this out, which may be a long time in the future. But for you young guys that are completely cut off from your crowds, it's got to be tough for you. And I know that everybody's suffering. I know some millennials all the way down to Gen Zs, and they are really suffering just to maintain where they are. So the reason that you go to these classes is they're going to help you put the plan in place, put the system in place, so you can really be successful beyond the first few escrows.
So that's it for today. Any questions at all about any of this? Again, you know, I don't mean to sound like a commercial, but I'm going to sound like a commercial. I know you guys have all heard this. If you really want, if you're fairly new to Keller Williams and you really want to get a sense of Gary Keller, and you want to get a sense of what the market's going to be like, and you want to get a sense of how to stay ahead of the market, you absolutely positively need to enroll in MegaCamp. This is where he throws out statistics, out the yin yang. I mean, he's an analytical, that's just who he is, but he will give you information that will absolutely equip you to address the market over the next 6 to 12 months. So you owe it to yourself. I think what is it, $99 or some, you know, but it's really, really worth it to attend that. Any other questions?
I have a question for Lee. I heard you're moving. You mentioned you're moving in the beginning of the class. You were saying that you were busy.
Oh, no, I have a listing that is a long ways from here. It's way up in Mendocino.
Okay.
And what started out is and I'll tell you a cute story. A friend of mine called me up, and he had his house listed, or his property listed from another agent who was a friend of his mother's, and they were very well established. And for 4 months, he didn't have a deal. And then he called me up, and I listed on Wednesday, and I sold it on the first Saturday. So I had it open for an hour before I sold it. And out of that income, he bought 3 properties for me last year in Willits, of all places, because it has a friend there. And unfortunately, he has a really serious lung problem. He needs his lungs replaced. So he can't go back to the house. So he said to me, how much did my house go up in the last 12 months? We closed April of 24. The house went up 41% in 12 months.
Whoa.
So now he's getting out of completely residential. We're doing 4plexes and 8plexes, all in a little town based on one condo sale. So here's the wild part that Renee knows well. that people will say to you periodically, but until it happens to you, you're going to have an idle conversation with somebody saying that you're in real estate, you're with this great company, blah, 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 and then nothing's going to happen. And then you talk to this person every once in a while, and out of the clear blue, they're going to call you with two statements. Either, hey, I need to sell a property, or B, my mom just listed her house. What do you think? And what happened was, just because you didn't stay in contact, because you didn't call them and ask them about the new cat, the new dog, the new car they got, once in a while, if you don't stay in touch with your people, they use other realtors. They can still be your friend, but they don't know you're a realtor. So you got to make sure that you make that impression that you're a realtor, you're in the business to make money, and also to help people achieve their real estate goals.
Yeah.
So when you don't call back, and then they send you a card saying, hey, I'm moving, the opportunity is so much on the surface that it could be very casual, but you're going to be shocked by just contacting friends and staying in touch with them and every place else that you've got to reach out to. Somebody's going to call you on a completely different subject, and you'll end up talking about real estate. It's on everybody's mind.
Yeah.
So just, and you know, to just take it one step further, and then I got to be on a finance meeting, but to take it one step further, remember that you want to be the source for everything real estate. So, you know, like I'm sure Lee, when he's talking to this one guy, he's talking about 1031 exchanges. You just, if you don't know, someone asks you something, if you don't know, you say, look, let me verify. You don't say, I don't know, but you say, I think I know, but let me verify and I'll get back to you.
Mhm.
Verify and get back to you. But again, you want to position yourself as the source for everything real estate. Because you never, right now I'm working with someone who has not listed with me on anything to try and get their tenant out of the house, which they will list with me, but they just referred me to someone who just had a $725,000 sale. So again, you just have to be the source.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
Hey, it's
Okay,
been
great
real.
Great program, as always. Great program.
It's been fun.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Renee.
Thank
Okay.
you. We'll see you guys later. We'll see you at Mega Camp.
Yeah. Great.
Have a good day, everybody.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.